All right. Thank you once again for everyone who came to join me today. My name is Stanislav Grafski, or you can call me Stan. I think at least two of you know me via video conferences before. The topic of our meeting today is mistakes to avoid when entering Russian market, followed by a live Q&A session. So I'll be happy if you ask as many questions as you like. Um, Here is the brief agenda of our today's meeting. So a couple of words about myself, who doesn't know me yet, and then in issues that are often raised on the agenda of market entrants I'm dealing with. So that concludes market formation, uh, approach to compatriots of new entrants versus local staff, how introduction or how local introductions are perceived, comparing with direct targeting by new market entrant, market research value, in my opinion, again based on my experience, the key issue of different cultural or cross-cultural issues, a commission or versus retainer only basis approach, a combination of other creative solutions that are normally negotiations right in the first meeting of market entrants with local targets, cultural issues overall and underestimation of them in particular. There is a there are number of Russian negotiation modes, but I will stop by only by one, which I think is uh, the favorite one of Mr. Putin, and for some reason many Russians use it all the time. I think it's subconsciously, for some reason, a perception of Western sanctions by new market entrants. Then a couple of words about my professional help, if any one of you might be of interest sooner or later. My contact details, what to do next, and finally Q&A session. All right. So once again, my name is Stanislav Grafski, or Stan, much easier. Yesterday, no, 4 days ago, I turned 57. I have the longest market entry expertise support in this country, over 35 years. I started in 1988 when a couple of Brits knocked my door and asked for helping them expanding with their business idea in this country before 3 years before the collapse of Soviet Union. I'm a lawyer in good standing since 1990, when I received my law degree from Voronezh State University in Russia. I got my MBA over 20 years ago in the UK Midlands in Nottingham University Business School, Russian affiliate of Wall Street Journal Financial Times called Vedomosti named me Manager of the Year. I am the most connected Russian all over the LinkedIn's. I think the only reason for that I was active right from the year of its foundation of 2003, when I was a full-time MBA student, and I was really excited about this new social network. Industries and sectors that I solve today is over 100. It's quite a long list. So obviously I worked on both sides of the desk, to be precise, as in-house consultant or lawyer or executive, and as an external. As a matter of fact, I had my clients apart of full-time employments with some companies. Many of them were leaders. Um, I think all 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 my career since, I would say, 1988, or when I started my first enterprise. Now, I'll stop by a number of most frequent either mistakes or repeatable steps that foreign entrants do this. And one of those is the request or questions that I'm asked with is how much or how long company formation in Russia will take them. And my approach is very simple, so don't even think about it. In the first place, it's not the most expensive place to register an entity, really quite opposite, to be precise. The difference in prices could be significant, that's true, depending on the caliber of company formation agents you deal with. However, it's not the issue to discuss when you come to the market. For some reason, more more agents than not ask me this question. You don't need to think about it at the beginning. Yeah, you can get the quotation, that's fine. But initially, you need to verify the market. In other words, to make sure there is, if you, let's say, bring in some goods or services into this market, make sure you have your potential buyers or targets or partners in a JV structure or whatever it is, or if you sourcing from this market, again, it's also called market entry. Make sure you have those sources to deal with and establish some initial relationship just to check the ground. And when you start establishing your key targets or potential partners, or even probably looking for initial staff on the ground, then you can move softly onto the next stage to draft your entry program, and then only when you need it, then make the next step. In many cases, by the way, you don't need structure. Let's say in direct supply, you supply something from Iran or Azerbaijan or the UK, and in this case, if your customer is happy to deal with direct contract, you don't need a Russian entity at all. Now, one of the other issues that our new market entrants normally face is, which staff to select first. Either compatriots, which is very convenient, you speak the same language, you have common values, or locals. More often than not, it is in any case was hiring people who are obviously competent, have your target industry expertise, and they have respective core competence in your particular area. Up to you at the end of the day to make this balance of interests. But my experience says when you follow the formal approach to hiring staff, it is much more efficient at the end of the day. Local introductions versus direct targeting. Many new entrants, in the attempt to economize or save costs, try to target or approach directly their potential targets. And this slogan, which is on the screen, it's not what you sell, but it's who you know, in 99% of the cases is true for this market. In other words, you could be extremely popular or respectable international brand, but more often than not, intrinsically, Russians don't care about it. before your target makes a solution, even to meet you or to have a video conference with you, they prefer to get some information about you, ideally to get some introduction from the local or some recommendations. If you deal with medium to large scale companies, the security department will get any information they could on you, so don't be surprised about that. It's normal practice, I think, in many countries as well. So it is always better to have a local introducer to your certain targets, thus paving the ground for your follow-up negotiations or discussions. I think it's quite similar with other markets. Formal sounding brand names, as I said, not necessarily that impressive for Russians. That's inadequate market research or screening, I would say, feature that many new entrants make when entering the market. And once again, over the course of trying to be as savvy as possible, many of those choose for going either with no market research, or sometimes it's called screening, depending on the contractor, or take the cheapest ones. Tons of economy faculty, graduates in this market who know how to use computer, Google, and Yandex research. And it's not that complicated to gather some basic info using keywords. Again, it depends on everyone. It's his decision. After all, it's about his money and his success. With my clients, I always recommend, if not insist, use proper researchers, and here is why. Around figures you would receive in a market research, and many of those for promotional purposes are offered on the internet for free sometimes. This kind of samples pretty often are out of date information, or could be just have a little gone with the reality. For example, the researchers team I normally use for my clients, in any research, use at least 6 industrial, very targeted, payable databases. Because at the end of the day, before we dive into market research, we identify our purposes, why we're doing that. Every step supposed to be quite pre-analyzed. And I can bring you tons of examples when final entry did not happen because of cheap market research. So be careful with that. Maybe with any other elements of market entry, but it is very important. It's information you stand on in the first place. Now we're approaching a very interesting topic, which I think is responsible for 90%, if maybe more than 90% of the cases, when even the duped for success market entry did not go through. I'm not talking about the cases where just negotiations failed. I'm talking about when parties met and upon clarifying initial basic positions, Russians said no. And I'm talking about the commission-only approach by foreign supplier. I know that you can argue with me saying it is one of the basic yet normal and fair terms, which could be that indicates the fair share of a Russian contractor involvement depending on the real result. However, commission-only approach complies, let's be honest, normally with consignment-basis deals. Very typical sample. Let's say you provide food products or other FMCG products to a established local retailer, and most of those, if not all of them, I think 100% of them nowadays work on consignment basis only. In other words, you supply to them according to the contract, and you are paid with what they sell, a certain percentage of what they sold out of your products in a certain period of time, like 40 days, 60 days, 90 days, and so on and so forth. And that seems quite fair. That's understandable. However, to Russian mind, I'm telling you how I feel and what my compatriots normally feel or sense in this kind of approach they faced. They immediately suspect that supply is not financially stable. If he passes responsibility for its own product competitives onto his local contractor, distributor, dealer, representative, whomever it is. And that's a very bad sign. It indicates you're not really interested in the result yourself. Or the other option, supply is not convinced in its quality or consumer properties of its good or goods. Finally, it could be supplier doesn't understand the basic of this particular product group distribution that immediately demonstrates he is or she is incompetent, and you're going to deal with that kind of guy. Or, which is very, very often situation when, let's say, Asian negotiators start playing the fool at the negotiation days, which actually doesn't add value to the negotiation result, to say the least. Realistically, such a negotiator tries to get everything for nothing, not the best approach, and actually it also humiliates the other parties. Like, you take me for a fool or what? And then normally that destroys the negotiations. Commission-only terms or approach is inappropriate in most of the deals where professionals involved, because the biggest of the value in their expertise and market connections. So trying to, as I'm often required or requested, yeah, please, Stan, sell my products, I'll pay you commission. Guys, it's not gonna work, because it tons of additional costs I'm involved in. Plus, as I said, some certain direct costs cannot be avoided, like certification, licensing fees you need to pay to your staff, logistic costs, even with FMCG products. You have to pay for the logistics even within the country. There are some options or alternatives to commission-only approach. It's retainer plus commission, or retainer only, or combination of both. Or the fourth one, be creative at the end of the day. When new market enter tries to persist on commission-only basis, the other parties, Russians normally, feel like they're used and they don't like it. So it's guaranteed no deal. So let's keep it in mind. My best advice would be, over the negotiations, try to get as many grounding details from Russian target. Why they insist on their position? Ask them for figures, And then if their position is for real, then think how, if you can find common grounds at the end of the day, if you obviously interested in this particular contractor, potential contractor. Cultural issues. At the end of the day, cultural issues, I think, are the ones that affect any negotiations, and those who underestimate cultural issues pay twice, really. Obvious or repetitive approach in any country. Compatriots trust other compatriots. So I always say, when you start selecting for local stuff, think about locals, not necessarily Russians by nationalities. It could be your compatriots, but those who are familiar with cultural issues, who spent years here, for example, who understand local customs, traditions, and the behavioral models local people are inclined to. And that's once again emphasized. The vast majority of failed deals are rooted in cultural misunderstanding of parties. New entrant doesn't understand local, and no deal at the end of the day. Russian negotiation model. Years ago I thought it's just me who is that lazy in negotiations or long discussions. Then, in a few researches, some analysts said, well, I have some common things with Mr. Putin's negotiation model, and finally I realized, wow, most of Russians do it. Again, it's kind of cultural cliche. In other words, what, in short, best terms of potential deal normally articulated right at the beginning, with open points on all key issues. This way, it could be explained two ways. First, most Russians, former Soviets, grown on Soviet economic model, where you know that when you start fair discussion, you know your costs, you put some extra like profit at the top, and that's a fair price for you. It's how the Soviet economy used to deal with pricing. Realistically, when you do that, intrinsically trying to save your time. And if your party doesn't agree with you playing the open cards, that to Russians it looks like a bad sign. I gave you the best deal options right away. Why don't we save time and just ink the deal? Whether it's correct approach or not, I don't know. It's not my issue, but that's definitely the fact. And there are tons of jokes about Mr. Putin negotiating with Mr. Zelensky from Ukraine. If you remember the story in 2022, when the Russian intervention into Ukraine started, and the first negotiations in Turkey started to take place, Russians offered probably the best deal proposal at that state. Actually, when I heard what Putin proposed, I said, "Oh, you fucking betray! What are you doing? If you gonna offer that to Zelensky, who will lose everything." However, that's typical position of Russians when you open the cards and expect to be fair and open from the other party. And that's why a lot of jokes on this topic with Putin and Zelensky, like hypothetical report asks, so What can help Mr. Zelensky to conclude the deal with Mr. Putin? And the right answer is strong tie. The question is why? Or what for? To hang himself, because he already lost his chances. So I think Russians, more often than not, inclined to quick negotiations and handshaking deal. Again, it could be options, could be different approaches, but look at even in Russian folk stories, there are no Alibaba characters at all. Russians don't like negotiating and bargaining. Yeah, obviously there are tons of professionals on this topic, but the sooner the better. Now, wrong perception of Western sanctions. To be honest, yeah, Western sanctions are pain in the ass for the Russian economy. But after 2-3 years, they're not that horrible, terrible as we see it now. Look at the figures. Market growth dynamics at 4%, market growth, GDP growth, 4% a year for the second or third year, not the third, for the second year in a row. So it's not that bad, really. Consumer spending is growing, obviously supported by a huge government pumping into new industries, obviously defense related. Russia is cut off SWIFT. However, and I can see that many new entrants misunderstand that, like, oh, you cut off the SWIFT. First, literally speaking, we're not cut off SWIFT. We SWIFT only off euro and dollar transactions. That's true. But look at the other transactions. You can deal in any other currency immediately. It's one story. The other story, there are tons of other banking institutions, both Russian institutions abroad, not to say in Russia, and other neutral countries' banks that are very much open to facilitate transactions, and they're doing everything legally without any breaking in laws. Besides, leading Russian banks these days already facilitate transactions in local currencies like with Iran, India, China. I personally facilitate quite a number of payment transactions for my clients from China and India. There are special procedures to comply with. It's compliance procedure you have to go through. But anyway, and new kid on the block is crypto boost in this country. Last year, Mr. Putin legalized crypto mining in this country, so I can see some other new entrants dealing in crypto mining arriving to this country. For example, many Chinese, because crypto mining is not allowed there. So at the end of the day, when dealing with Western sanctions, always say, by the way, you can watch my videos how to turn sanctions into profits. There are a few videos on my YouTube channel without breaking law. You should be creative in turning sanctions to your benefit. So, as Western, being in Rome, behave as a Roman. When in Russia, be fast and creative. As simple as that. So, Western sanctions realistically galvanized this economy, and these days nobody really concerned about those limitations, because we do have quite a number of alternative way of international settlements. How I can help you if one day or another you consider this market? At the end of the day, after 50% or nearly 50% of the Western brands left the market, uh, all these niches pre-cultivated for many years are to be used by some other market players. It's the easiest to do. So what I can help you with? I have a free product called Express Opportunity Check based on uh, questionnaire I sent to anyone who asks. So I look at your answers, and we have 30 to 60 minutes video conference. I can help you with answering any questions you like, um, and suggest you the model which I believe, based on my experience, might be probably more appropriate than any others. In case, as a result of the free Express Opportunity Check, or with no relevance to this, you can go for a payable strategy session, which is, after all, I believe, is just peanuts, hour-long strategy session where, based once again on your starting points, I would suggest you not just what, but how to do certain strategies. Um, Besides, there are tons of additional services like market research, targeting, that I could even address you to specialized professionals, not necessarily me myself, or maybe my team members who are ready to help you, who can do that for you. There is very interesting and popular product is called one-to-one mentoring, or you can call it coaching guidance by me, where we meet 4 times a month, one-to-one, via video conference. Ideally, if you do have already or on the way to hire a local manager, so that we step by step would apply the market entry model to meet all your requirements and to capitalize on all local benefits that this market offers. Could be discussed. If you have any questions, we could discuss that, so you understand how it works. And Russian market entry consultant, I have quite a number of solutions that have been polished over the decades, really, by now. If someone of you is interested, I'm open to discuss it personally. Here is my contact details. The most reliable, fastest one, I believe, it's email, which is easy to remember, but I will place the recording of this presentation and a webinar anyway, both on my LinkedIn profile and my YouTube. Email my name, Stan at Grafski, my family name.com, very easy. Here next is my WhatsApp. I normally react to WhatsApp messages either immediately or within an hour, so when I see it. You can also find me on Telegram, both as Stan Grafski, or as Telegram channel called Russian Opportunity. I always recommend, please get connect with me directly on LinkedIn. It's not just expands your connections, and I'm the most connected Russian, as I said before. There is a group on LinkedIn called Market Entry and Business in Russia, where I and other group members place business related news daily, sometimes up to 15-20 news, obviously all in English. Besides, you can communicate, guys, group members communicate directly between themselves, where half of the group members are local market players. So these guys in the know, really, and that's where the value is. So think about it if one day you get interested in this market. So, as I said, if you're interested in negotiating or not negotiating, discussing any of your situation, just get your new entrant qualification form from me or send me just questions or inquiries. I will be happy uh, to answer any questions of yours.